Praying in tongues, a very interesting thing. When I first learnt to pray in tongues in the spirit, particularly when I was um, engaging heaven and engaging supernatural dimensions, it was a very much, this is something that is going to help me understand how to do two things at once. I didn't quite understand why, but God then showed me later, this was going to help you understand how to live in two places at once, how to operate in the soul and the spirit at the same time, how to function connected soul and spirit. So I did a lot of practicing in terms of praying in tongues while I was speaking out loud, or praying in tongues in my mind while I was reading the Bible, or praying in tongues in my head, or all that's different things. So I practiced a lot in it. Um, and then as I became more intimate with God and I got to know God, and I wasn't just practicing and my senses were more trained to engage God, and I was having daily encounters and conversations with God all the time, then the praying in tongues aspect of it was like, well, I don't need to do this anymore for this purpose. So I stopped, not deliberately so, well, I'm not praying in tongues anymore. You know, I might singing in the spirit at times or do different things, but the purpose of it was no longer something I was practicing with. I was then able to live in this way. So it lessened, in what I would pray in tongues in a particular way. And there are various things that also lessened while I was doing that in terms of the ministry style that I was involved in. God really challenged me on helping people to engage God themselves rather than prophesying over them or ministering to them in that way. So praying in tongues in that context became unnecessary. But what I did find was that as my spirit was engaging and dwelling in the realms of heaven all the time, then my spirit began to engage, and I found myself praying in tongues, like when I woke up or at a particular time, all of a sudden I would be praying in tongues. I didn't choose to do that. It wasn't something that I thought, oh, well, I'm going to pray in tongues now because this is a gift I have. I can use this gift. It didn't happen that way. I just found myself praying in tongues. So then it was like, oh, what's going on? And it felt like this, my spirit was communicating. There's, hey, pay attention. There's something here for you. And that might be I've encountered something during the night or whatever, and now just tune into it. So I found that whenever I sort of was just started praying in tongues, it was like, oh, what's going on? What do I need to look into? Is there something I need to focus on here? And I became sensitive to that my spirit could be functioning and doing all sorts of things, and actually consciously I was not aware of that. And this gave me, oh, maybe I need to engage, maybe my consciousness need to be aware of this. So I would tune into it and I would look into it, and I would maybe go and engage where my spirit was, and I sort of felt that was part of where I was then. So I think definitely there's a decreased need to praying the spirit in tongues when you're engaging in the spirit, because you're dwelling there. You're not talking to God in another language, because you're engaging with God face to face. So I definitely believe as we mature and as we increase in our experience of God in the spirit and dwell with him and abide with him in the spirit, then there's definitely less need to pray in tongues in the way we did it before. It talks about edifying your spirit or building up your spirit. And, I certainly used it for that. I used it to pray all the time. So I would pray in my mind, I would pray out loud, but I found my spirit had this bubbling energy within as it got activated that I felt all the time, that it felt like my spirit's engaged here. And that was the sort of the residue of the fact that I could live in dual realms. I was dwelling in dual realms, therefore my spirit was always active. And I just felt that connection, even though I wasn't always conscious. It certainly was something I felt was very real, and that it was a sign that my spirit was active and functioning as it was intended. That we live in multiple realms in that way. If you enjoy these videos, would you please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe? It really does help. Thank you very much.